2, 1, and go. Joseph and I have a friend. He works in Boston Consulting Group. He starts his workday at 8 a.m. and ends his workday on the bare minimum 12 a.m. At its worst, there are rooms in his office where he can sleep because it's a common occurrence for him to just not go home. He's 23, by the way, and the last time I spoke to him, he does kind of regret taking the job because even though he does a lot of important things for a lot of important people, the job has taken away his entire social life, most of his hobbies, and his time speaking with all of his loved ones. At most, he has a lot of money, which is why he took it, but just speaking to him, I don't think that's the most important thing that he cares about. The reason why I'm saying this is because up until Joseph, this debate has become a deadlock between prioritizing the person actually taking the job versus prioritizing the company who offers all of these jobs. What Joseph says in extension is simple. It's both. You can have both when you ban exploding offers, and it's only exclusive on closing government where you get the mechanisms to get this impact. There are two issues in this debate. Let's talk about the first one, on the role of the ban and whether or not it actually leads to a more healthy and more effective workforce. I think opening government can be condensed into the following sentence. Exploding bans are very time-bound. When you extend upon that time-bound, you allow for the best possible decision to be made by the person being offered. I think there's a missing line of logic here. I don't necessarily get why it's the most important and standout thing in the round, especially when it wasn't weighed in top half with opening opposition's valid point of these jobs necessarily being important. Sorry, someone's calling me. How does Joseph come into this debate? 1. Joseph comes and gives a very clear line of logic. Better people can come in when industries are clearer with the job expectations that come as a consequence of all of this ban. Because the ban just doesn't stop at saying that you have more time. It necessarily must indicate that more people can acclimate themselves with the expectation that these jobs offer them. Closing opposition says that, all of these exploding job offers, they incentivize the most competent and most fast-paced workers to take it. So that's why it's being offered, and that's why it's not so bad, right? The reason that this is false is just because it's untrue. It's not like these companies are lacking in capable workers. There are a lot of people within all of these industries already. What they're lacking in is workers who are willing to spend 16 hours every single day to work 996 weeks. Closing opposition doesn't get the comparative in this debate. It's not what they're debating. I think they're out. Secondly, I think Joseph explains the perverse incentives of the companies found within these industries, right? The reason that exploding offers are so effective and a lot of people do actually opt into them is because legacy institutions leverage their position and leverage their name as a means of justifying bad worker practices. It's not normal that you spend 18 hours in that particular country, but as a consequence of you working for Boston Consulting Group, you working for Nestle, you being offered a high salary, all of these bad things that they can literally push towards you are justified as a consequence of this particular trade-off. We say this doesn't have to happen, this doesn't need to happen, and I think the ban is perfectly capable of doing that. It's not just a matter of them saying no because they can, because it's very dismissive coming from opening opposition. Lastly, Joseph explains and flips the opposition's entire point against us of, as a consequence of this ban, it's going to lead to less efficiency in regards to these important industries. The ban is a move by the state to directly influence how these companies operate. When you disallow this perverse incentive, you force these companies to be more strategic and to literally change all of their abusive practices with their choice because they're not allowed to burn workers anymore with their high attrition rate. How should you weigh this contribution? Firstly, on the scale of impact, because we really don't just focus on the role of each specific individual worker, right? We talk about how these systems in particular can change as a consequence of this particular act. The secondary is just on the gravity, right? Because we can concede and we can even win on opening opposition's own metric of operational efficiency at the point in which where the best and most applicable and most capable worker does have that time to actually make that decision. Yeah, the point is, we are having that trade-off of time as a consequence of us having to wait more, but that time is necessary in order to make the best possible and most strategic decision comparative to what on their side of the house where, the likely outcome is they're only going to have like the it's going to be very few, the amount of offers that they can get who do fit into that. Yeah, I'm also capable, but I'm also willing to put in all of those 16 hours. Second issue, on what is best for the actual industry. And this is where I really want to be extremely responsive towards opening opposition and opposition bench as a whole. Firstly, there is a mismatch between their want of operational efficiency versus the policy of exploding offers. Think about it, right? If there is a position to open up in Boston Consulting Group and there is a plethora of people capable of taking that job, then you don't want to have that entire basis of your decision to be time-based given the different contexts of different people. Because a lot of people are applying to these jobs and a lot of people are capable of taking these jobs. It's just a matter of who says yes first that is so prevalent and so harmful on their side of the house. LO and the opposition has this weak response of saying, well, they can just say no. No, they can't, right? The reason why they can't say no outside or independent of Joseph's own reason of legacy institutions is because the salary that these people make them like basically in the top echelon or the top 90th percentile of whatever country that they are in. So they're incentivized to become work slaves given the demand that these jobs the demand that these jobs are offering. So what happens? What happens is, at best, their side has potentially good people burn out because they weren't expected, or they didn't expect the load of the actual work that they were in, right? That they were offered. As a consequence of that very marginal time that they have to say yes. What the crucial difference on our side of the house, right, is that on closing government, the state has every incentive to make sure that this doesn't happen because you want a more effective and more healthy and literally a more efficient workforce happening as a consequence of you doing this. These are the missing mechanisms and these are the missing points of analysis that Joseph gave in his speech that allow us to take the win over all of the teams in the round. For all of those reasons, very, very proud to propose.